Today I will tell you a story. The story is titled, A Day I Stayed Home Longer Because of Quirky. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you appreciate me. You can skip this if you don't and oppose. Like this video. Thank you very much. The story begins as follows. That morning began like any other weekday. The alarm rang, sunlight slid through the thin curtains, and the distant hum of motorbikes drifted through the street. I stretched, reached for my phone, and mentally listed the things I needed to finish that day. It was supposed to be busy, but beside my bed, curled into a soft cinnamon-colored circle, Quirky slept with tiny sighs escaping his nose. His ears twitched whenever I shifted the blanket, and his tail thumped lazily as if even his dreams were friendly. I sat up quietly so I wouldn't wake him. He opened one eye anyway. Quirky always knew. His tail wagged once, then twice. Then the entire back half of his body began to wiggle like a happy wave. "Good morning," I whispered. He stretched dramatically, front paws forward, back legs straight, mouth opening in a slow yawn that revealed a tiny pink tongue. Then he climbed into my lap as if he had an important meeting scheduled there. Normally, I would rush to brush my teeth, make coffee, and hurry out the door. But that morning, Quirky rested his chin on my arm and looked up at me with soft eyes that said, "Stay." I checked the time again. Maybe I could stay home a little longer. The thought felt strange, like skipping a step in a routine dance. Yet the quiet morning air, the warm weight of Quirky leaning against me, and the gentle rhythm of his breathing softened something inside my chest. So I stayed. Instead of rushing, I made tea and sat on the floor. Quirky followed me like a fluffy shadow. He watched every movement, the pouring water, the steam rising, the spoon stirring. When I blew on the tea, he tilted his head as if the steam itself was suspicious. We sat together near the window. Outside, neighbors swept their yards. A bicycle bell rang. Somewhere, a child laughed. Inside, Quirky leaned against my leg, perfectly content doing nothing. And for the first time in weeks, I realized I was content doing nothing too. Because I stayed home longer than usual, the day unfolded differently. After breakfast, I decided to clean the house. Quirky supervised every step with serious dedication. He inspected the broom. He barked at the dustpan. He bravely attacked a suspicious sock hiding under the couch. When I wiped the table, he stood on his hind legs to check my progress. When I folded laundry, he sat proudly on the pile as if guarding it from invisible thieves. At one point, he stole a towel and ran through the living room like a tiny champion. I chased him in slow circles, laughing harder than I had in days. He eventually dropped the towel at my feet, panting happily, clearly satisfied with his victory. Late morning sunlight warmed the tiles. Quirky stretched out in the brightest patch like a small loaf of bread baking in golden light. I sat beside him, absent-mindedly scratching behind his ears. His eyes closed. His breathing slowed. I noticed details I usually missed. The faint scent of soap from freshly washed clothes. The quiet ticking of the wall clock. Dust particles floating like tiny stars. Quirky's whiskers twitching in sleep. At noon, instead of rushing out for food, I cooked something simple. The sound of chopping vegetables made Quirky appear instantly at my feet. He sat politely, tail sweeping the floor, eyes full of hope and patience. He didn't beg. He just believed. I gave him a small piece of carrot. He accepted it as if it were the finest gift in the world. After lunch, we stepped outside. The air was warm but gentle. Quirky trotted proudly beside me, stopping to sniff every leaf, every stone, every story the ground had saved overnight. He greeted a passing neighbor with enthusiastic tail wags. He watched a butterfly like it was a floating miracle. He paused to listen to birds hidden in the trees. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was wasted. Watching him experience the world with such wholehearted curiosity made me wonder how many moments I had hurried past without seeing. By mid-afternoon, I realized something surprising. I didn't feel behind. I felt lighter. As the sun lowered, the house filled with amber light. I finished the small tasks I had planned, but without the usual tension pressing on my shoulders. Quirky followed me into the kitchen, into the living room, back to the bedroom, never demanding attention, only offering companionship. When evening arrived, we sat together on the floor again. I leaned against the wall while Quirky rested across my feet, warm and steady. Outside, the sky shifted from gold to lavender, then slowly to deep blue. I thought about how the day had changed simply because I stayed home a little longer. Nothing extraordinary happened. No grand events. No dramatic turning points. Yet the day felt full, filled with laughter, quiet comfort, and the peaceful presence of a small dog who loved without conditions. Quirky lifted his head and looked at me. His eyes held the same gentle message from the morning. You are here. That is enough. I stroked his fur, feeling the softness beneath my fingers, the steady heartbeat beneath his ribs, the trust he placed in me without hesitation. In that quiet moment, I understood something simple and important. To him, I am his whole world. And in caring for him, my world becomes kinder. Staying home longer because of Quirky reminded me that love often lives in ordinary moments. In today's fast-paced world, we rush from task to task, believing productivity defines our worth. Yet animals live differently. They do not measure time by deadlines, but by presence, warmth, and connection. Quirky taught me that slowing down is not laziness. It is a way of truly living. Our relationships with animals bring emotional balance, patience, and compassion into our lives. When we care for them, we learn responsibility and empathy. When we observe them, we rediscover curiosity and gratitude. Their loyalty reminds us to be kinder. Their trust teaches us to be gentler. To apply this lesson in daily life, we can begin with small steps. Pause and breathe before rushing into the next task. Spend undistracted time with loved ones and pets. Notice the beauty in familiar surroundings. And treat animals with respect and care, recognizing that they feel comfort, fear, and joy just like we do. A kinder world begins at home, in the way we speak, the way we care, and the way we choose to slow down long enough to love.